you have ever read a book or and that time you just thought, oh, I wish I would have written this book. Or perhaps you were just sitting there and, watching all these news on your news feed and said that, oh, this person or that person, they have become a published author. And just think, oh my God, how could they become a published author? They can't put the proper sentence together. And you're just wondering, now I should have write something. Well, this episode is for you. Hi, my name is Helia Singh. I'm a wealth coach and I can help you to fast track to financial independence. But in today's episode, we are just talking all about book. My favorite item, as you can see behind me, right and back, books are everywhere. And I'm one of those people who want an actual physical book. I'm not so much into Kindle or audiobooks. I just want to feel it, smell it, take it to bed with me, and yeah, just even maybe have some of my tears on that book and writing my notes on that book. So it's all about book and how we can become a writer. And if there is something that we always wanted to write and the message to give to others, so I advise you, please do so. You need to start it now. But I'm sure everybody gets a bit frightened because they think, oh, am I going to be good enough to write a book or not? So that's why I have our beautiful guest today, Athena Daniels. She is the book coach from Australia, and she can talk to us and tell us all about how to write a good book worth reading. Hi, Athena. Thank you very much for coming to our show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to be here. And I just wanted to say I love your passion about books. Just listening to you just describe a book. That's exactly how I feel. Just that whole experience of just holding a book and smelling it, just the weight of it in your hands and the actual act of turning the pages. It's just there's just nothing like it. So yeah, I love that. It's a passion I share too.
That's great, amazing. I know. I mean, sometimes some people, they send me a PDF version of the book, and even though it's good that sometimes you go there, you just press the F5 and just look for something, and it just takes you to that section. But I really like that. Doesn't matter whether it's a novel or it's a self-development book or even a business book. I like to go through the journey of reading the book, not just go and find the part that I'm curious as a reader to find out.
Yeah.
And that journey, I know you will talk about that, the journey that you like the reader experience when they're reading a book. So please tell us about what is it about a book coach? Even the term book coach was very new to me until just a couple of years ago. So what is a book coach? Is it the ghostwriting? Is it the, publishing or for you? Or what do they do? Or what do you do?
That is an excellent question, and it is a very new field that's brought about by the rise in the changes in the publishing industry. So once upon a time, well, that not that long ago, there was only one way to publish a book, and that was to go through a traditional publisher. But then through the rise of self-publishing, it's given, I mean, it's the pros and cons. I mean, it's a good and a bad thing being able to publish the book yourself, because in, the good aspect is that you can publish your stories without having to go through a gatekeeper. But the downside is you can just publish a book without going through a gatekeeper, which means that, you do run the risk of publishing something that, is probably less than what it could have been. So a book coach actually helps the writer in the way, or in similar ways to what the traditional publisher, how they nurtured their writers, or how the editors nurtured their writers through the publishing process. So we actually help the actual writing of the book, so the essence of the book, actually getting the book right. So helping the writer. So my clients are like, they're the most incredible people. They just know so much. They have so much knowledge and they've had so much experience, and they want to write a book because they do know that their life experience can help others. And they've got people that come to them maybe and just say, hey, you really should write a book, and they're already helping people one-to-one, and they're thinking, well, I could help more people. And being, writing a book or being a published author, I could really help people on a global scale. Like, my message could get that far, and a book's the way to do it. But then how do you get that knowledge out of your mind and into a book that people want to read. And that's where a book coach comes in. So we actually start at that level where, okay, you know all of these things and you've had all of this experience, but if you try to put all of that stuff into one book, you write about all the things, you end up writing about nothing. So we really help really actually work out what that core message of that particular book. So you can write like 10 books, like some of my clients, you know, they've at least got 10 books in them. But we really think, well, what book should come first? And what is the message? What's the most powerful message? What are your ideal clients or your ideal, you know, your target readers? What are they most wanting to know and how you can help them? And then we actually help them get those ideas. So once we've found that idea, it's then how do you turn that into a book that people want to read? And we were just saying before we jumped onto this call that you know, the writing process, the reading process is a linear process. You're reading it from start to finish, but writing it, you don't just write it that way. You write it all over the place. But then you turn it into that. So that's where a book coach comes in, is helping actually turn all of that knowledge, which is just a different way of communicating, into that actual book that you're proud of.
Wow, that's amazing. I really like that the reading is a leaning, you know, exercise, but writing is not. That absolutely makes sense. Having said that, I've got 3 books. I mean, I published 3 books on Amazon. So, but even though I've got the title of author or a best-selling author, but to me, it's different. Just imagining having the actual book, a very thick, big book in the shelf somewhere, it just brings another anxiety, another level of that, oh, am I good enough to write a book or go to that level? So what do you think, what would be your advice to people like me?
So the very first thing is always that feeling of not being good enough. That is just part of being a writer. Like, I don't think any of us, no matter how many times we've published, and I've never heard it in all of my being in the industry and all the interviews, I've just never heard anybody say that they can get away with not having that. Like, it doesn't matter how talented or experienced you are, you always believe that you're just not enough or somebody else is out there doing it better. And they say there's no such thing as an original idea, and that may be true, but no one has said it in your way. And no one has lived your experience. No one has gone through your journey, and no one can tell what you know in your way. So that's what makes you unique. And the other thing that people think is they have to have it all worked out. So a lot of people just stop or put off writing their book. They think, oh well, no, because I'm still to work this. I'm still going to learn a bit more. I could just do, you know, like I'll do it one day when I've got it all worked out. But you never get it all worked out. So the value of your book is you just need to be further along in your journey than someone else. And that's what I think we always underestimate ourselves, especially I think powerful women, when I work with them, is because we're so driven to just be better, to learn more, to do more, to, you know, to offer more, to be of more service. And so, you know, we never reach that point. We go, just got it all worked out. There's nothing else to learn.
If only, that's it.
Exactly. But what they forget is the incredible like database or just a knowledge bank that they are. And you know, and having like working with somebody when you're writing a book, it reminds you of that, because the things that become second nature to you, other people just don't know. And so that's sort of your genius zone, and you take your genius zone for granted. You know, I know, especially when I'm dealing with incredible women, is because it's second nature. It comes easy to them. They don't value it. And if they can, you know, like really sort of own that, go, okay, yeah, right, that is what, you know, and just because it's easy doesn't mean it's not of immense value to somebody else. And that's, yeah, I think that's the value of working with somebody when you're writing your book, is because you've got that someone to bounce off and just say, well, how is this, you know, and they just go, oh, that just blew me away, I could use that in my own life. Or they could say, oh yeah, that was sort of felt a little bit flat, so you know, let's see what more could we do, could we share a story really resonate with your reader. Like, there's all of those things that you can talk about, but that's what gives you the confidence during the writing journey that you're going to end up with something that is going to make a difference in the world, that's going to have meaning, it's going to contribute to the world in some way. And I think they're the authors that I love working with the most, are the ones that want to make the world a better place. Like, they want to be known for something, and they want to leave that legacy. They don't just want to write a book to be called a published author. Anyone can do that. Anyone can, like, literally, you could publish your diary if you wanted to, put it in some obscure category and call yourself a #1 best-selling author. Like, I think, like, that can't be the goal, as far as I'm concerned. For that's not what I'm about anyway. Everyone's got, can do what they want, but I love working with the women that really have something meaningful to share and contribute to the world, so that we can all learn and we can all become better people. And yeah, that's what I'm really passionate about. And I think that answers your question about, that little voice of doubt being not good
Yes.
enough.
Yes.
You just
Appreciate
yeah.
that. Thank you so much. Well, obviously, I told you this story, but just for the sake of our audience, I'll say it again that a few months ago, I was just talking to some group of friends, and in some workshop that I was running, I was talking about that. Okay, yes, I've got a few books, but one day there are some other books inside me that I like to write. But yes, someday I'll get to that. And 3 people immediately, they said, you have to speak to Athena. And even though there were some other book coach that I know and I have interviewed, in our podcast, but what this really stood up for me the first time we had our conversation is that you love reading the books. It's about the book, not about helping someone to become a publisher or become an author and then have that status in their Facebook page or in LinkedIn. So please tell me about your journey of how did you become a book coach and what's your background in there?
Yeah, so it's one of those things that I happened to by accident. So first of all, yeah, I've heard my love of books. I think I was just born with a book in my hand. I was just that girl that was just always walking around with a book. It was just like permanently attached to my fingers. We'd go on family holidays, and my dad would be saying, "Look out the countryside! Look at what we've had," and I'd be going, "Yep, yep, nice trees." And so I've just love it. I have this love of books, and I guess that comes through in my coaching as well, because that is going to be the #1 priority. Because as a reader, if I'm going to be choosing a book out of the millions that I've got to choose from, and I'm going to invest that time, which, as you know, is finite and the most valuable thing that we own. I really am all about that promise to the reader. So I want that book to fulfill its promise. If it's advertised as it's going to be, doing this, then that's what I expect as a reader, and that's what I'm passionate about with my clients, is really fulfilling that promise to the reader, so that they just leave that book, with the intention of that book. Is it to uplift, inspire? Is it a journey? And if it's going through somebody's challenges, like I love that metaphor that you used. It's not a metaphor. Literally tears on the page. I love that. I want tears on the pages of my book, and that's when you've got a really good book. So that was my first love of books. But I grew up, I guess, in a world where creativity wasn't valued. So it was, and especially being female, I think as well, it's more of the expectations that women couldn't do things in this world. So a little bit of my rebellious nature, I suppose, was women can't because they're too emotional, or women can't because for whatever reason, so they're not logical. And so I actually got a career in the oil and gas industry doing logistics and procurement. So it was more, tell me women can't, I'll show you that women can. But then where that left me in, like going through my career, is that I wasn't fulfilled, because I wasn't pursuing my passion, so I got to that stage where I was just desperately unhappy with what I was doing. You get to that point, well, I'm proving a point, but, who am I hurting? So I got to that point in life where you're living what you're told as a female you should want. The house, the kids, the husband, 2.4 kids, and then you have that, and you think, well, then why am I desperately unhappy? Why am I feeling like this? If this is what I'm supposed to have, and this is the goal, and you achieve it, then why am I feeling like this? And so I went through that dark night of the soul moment where I had to, you search through everything, like what you were saying. I started getting up, I was getting terrible migraines, and I was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I started just writing everything on the page and everything I was feeling, just to try to sort through. I guess you don't know how you feel until like you write it. And so it's really sort of, going through all of that. And it was because I wasn't following my passion. I was the support crew in everyone else's life. No one had ever asked me what I wanted. So, and it was that point in time that I started writing, that it just started flowing. I wrote poems, and then it turned into a novel, and I put that whole novel aside, and then I wrote another novel, and that was the novel that actually got picked up by a traditional publisher. And no one even knew I was writing. It was just something I did out of desperation, because I had to have that creative outlet. And and it wasn't until I was actually published that I gave myself permission to take writing seriously. And everyone around me was surprised, like, you what? You wrote a
Yeah.
novel? You're published? Well, because, it was one of those things that I had to do, in secret, because there was no time to do anything else, because I was busy doing everything for everybody else. So once I did that, I just took it upon myself to learn everything I could about the writing and publishing industry, and I set up my own publishing company, Sunset Coast Publishing, and then I started writing fiction novels. And part of that was just immersing myself in publishing and just learning everything. Yeah. So and then what happened is I was coming across people in, networking around in Perth, events and things like that, and they were saying, "Oh, can you help me write my book?" And at that stage, I was like, well, no, I know how I can write a book, but I don't know if I can help you write a book. Yeah, no, I don't think I can do that. And but then more and more people were coming to me, and I was coming across these horror stories of people just being, I guess, ripped off by some vanity and scam publishers, and they were being published, books that they just weren't proud of. You open up the conversation, you say, "Oh, you're published? Oh, that's great. What's your book called?" They were too embarrassed to even say. And it lit a fire under me. When, like, I was, people go, "Oh, I spent $15,000 or $20,000 on this book," and it was just, oh. So I went, "Oh, that's it." So then I actually found Jenny Nash's author accelerator coaching, and I trained to be a book coach. And I guess that's set me on a different path again, because that was nonfiction. And then as I was coming across these incredible women, and I was helping put their stories out in the world, powerful stories that were making a difference. I decided, well, I realized that I loved that even more than I loved, my fiction writing. So it's funny how life takes different paths, but it just leads you. And now I look at everything in a whole, where I think, those years were wasted in the oil and gas industry, doing all the accounts and I'll go, that actually serves me really well as a book coach, having that foundation, that analytical left brain mind. And now I can combine that with the creative side, and my fiction background gives me all the tools to be able to help women write their stories, so that you get that emotion off the page. So it's not just oh, I did this and this happened and this happened. You show and not tell, and that's how you draw the reader in, and that's how you actually get the writer to, like, spring up in tears. It's all of that emotion, really pulling that emotion out of the reader. So I combine them both, and yeah, and so that's sort of how I got to be where I am now. And I suppose the next part after that was the publishing, and that was just the next flow on, obviously, was taking them all the way through to the end, and being able to share everything that I've learned through the publishing side myself, just book launches and how to find your readers. And actually, it's one thing writing a book, but how do you get it in the hands of your readers? Otherwise it's just sitting there on a virtual bookshelf with, like millions of other books. So it's the whole, it's the whole
Yes.
entirety of the process. Yeah, but I love it. So it's, yeah, as you can see, I just
I
start
can see the
talking.
passion. I can see your passion. Thank you so much for sharing your hero's journey, because I believe what we all go through in life, it's just actually was meant to happen.
Yeah,
Us, and it happened for us to bring us to where we are now.
yeah,
Without those experiences, without those journeys, or without whatever happened, the traumas or the scars we've got, we wouldn't be the person that we are here today.
absolutely. Yeah.
So it doesn't matter even if you are an analytical thinker or you write business book or you want to write a fiction book. I believe that we need to have something that can anchor in our journey to say that why this my view in life is this way. Because
Yes.
as you mentioned, I think every book is written. So I mean, there is nothing, no new ideas to be written. Yes.
Yeah.
Unless, yes, if that's a different conversation, if we talk about the AI and whether they'll become an author or they they will beat us to be a good, author or writing something better than human. That's a different conversation altogether. But what humans has been through, so I think yes,
Yes.
it's nothing new.
That's
Everything is
that's Yeah, that especially at the moment is something that AI can't touch. They might be able to share knowledge, and there's so many incredible things that they're doing, and just like watching that space is just fascinating. And I love, just seeing how that's all developing. But at the end of the day, you're exactly right. That human element, it's sharing your story, and AI can't really get into your heart and share your story and really give you that, deep empathy and understanding, all those learnings that the wisdom from your story and what you've learned in your way, and how you've used that to transform, I guess, what you were saying, all those things that we've gone through makes us who we are and why we're doing what we're doing today. And that's where the power comes in, and that's really what you focus on with writing a book, because when you have done that right in a book, and so say it is a business book, that's what's going to set you apart from other people. So if a reader, say you're solving a problem with your book, so you've got something that you can offer that people want to know. And so they go searching. So, what are they going to be looking up? Something, that they want the answer for. And then, they're searching through Google, and all these people come up, and then you've got a book. And so then they go, oh, and so it's interesting, our culture loves books. Click on the book. And so if the book sounds compelling enough, and you've done your copy and everything the right way, and then you go and read that book. So then that person understands or that reader or potential client understands why you're doing what you're doing. So you've shared your story, and then maybe the reader can resonate with what you've been through. Oh, that's exactly me. I had, a similar challenge myself. I couldn't get my daughter to get to sleep either, or I couldn't, like whatever it is that you're solving. And then by the end of the book, they feel like they know you and they trust you. And like a book, they could spend 20 hours with you reading that book. So then my clients find that by the time they actually get on a sales call through the links at the back of your book, they feel like they know you. And so you could start your normal, oh, this is, and they go, yeah, I know. I love it. I love what you do. It's just fantastic. And I can completely relate to why you're doing what you're doing. I had exactly the same myself. Where do I sign? And so, and that's sort of like why you've done, but also the book can't just be a marketing tool, so it should organically happen that way if they love you and you obviously have got something that you're selling like outside of that, as an ecosystem, courses or coaching or whatever else. But really it's got to have that value, so it's got to be standalone, and that's what I'm really passionate about as well. I really have a problem with a lot of the books that are just written to market, to like just it's like an extended sales brochure, because I feel like as a reader, I really don't like that when I get to the end of the book and I feel like I haven't got anything of value, got a couple of tidbits, and the rest is, oh, but come and buy this product to get that. It's like, no, a book has to, it has to be a standalone, it has to be value, it has to be a book, it has to fulfill a promise to the reader. And yeah, I guess I got off the topic of the AI, but yeah, but your story is a big part of that, I guess, is that the why you're doing what you're doing is the, I think that's the real gold, the
Yes,
passion is your story
absolutely.
behind the story.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. So, what is your final tip for our audience if they ever thought that, oh, should I write a book? I always wanted to write a book, but yeah, maybe it's too soon, or maybe, yeah, whatever reason that they are putting it off. What would be your advice?
Yes, my advice is to plan, is to really think about what your book is about, who it is for, why they need to read it, And what will happen if they don't? You know, because that's a really powerful question, because you might have all these answers, and you know, well, what if they don't, you know, hear that? And also think about the goals for your book as well. Like, what is its purpose for being, you know, out in the world? And especially if you're a business person, you know, there's so much that you can leverage from a book. So we touched on before that, you know, if somebody's searching, so, you know, Google, and so say they're, you know, whatever industry that you're in, so they're searching and they've got 10 people that they're looking at, and then they've got one person who's an author. So straight away perceived, oh, well, he wrote the book on it. You know, he wrote the book on it, so it must be good. So whether that's true or not is another thing. But you know, so they'll tend to do that. And part of that process thinking, well, what would a book how does that add to my ecosystem? So, you know, if it's your goal to get more speaking appearances, or to, you know, really raise your profile and get into some different, you know, like industries, or, you know, the other people in your industry that have written books, and go to these events where only people who've written books can go to, and use that for topics of conversation to really get, you know, whatever, but it comes from, you know, like why you're doing what you're doing. So your message, your reason. But the book is a really powerful way to help get that message to a broader audience out in the world. So it's really getting that plan, actually, you know, like what we're talking about before, is really that blueprint or the foundation about everything, the essence of your book, its vision and its purpose, before you actually start writing the book. And so then if you do it from that angle, so when you are, you know, a published author, you've already set the foundation for everything else that comes from your book. So I'd say that that would be really my very first, or the biggest advice I get, is to really sort of spend that time planning, um, rather than, you know, it's very tempting just to start writing. And I think that's where a lot of, you know, the people that come to me have just written a whole lot of stuff, and they don't know why they can't actually get it into a book. And I mean, that's the thing, it's really getting that vision, it's really working out that reader's journey, taking that reader from where they are now to where they want to be, and really spending that thought in, you know, that foundational process. And that would be my advice. And because if you can get that right, then you can actually write and finish your book, and then you've actually, you know, that's, it's all about creating the most excellent product that you can. And then you can talk about the publishing and, you know, all the things that can grow from that. But it comes from the product first, which comes from the plan. So that is a long way of advice.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, Tina. Well, and my advice to you, my dear audience, and whoever is listening to us, is that get in touch with Athena. So she will tell you that, okay, for your whatever book you want to write, what would be the journey and how to start it. So the main thing is don't put it off. It's just and one thing I learned so far is that whatever the first draft is, basically the story we are just telling ourselves. Nobody else needs to read it and watch it. But having someone like Athena who can help you, guide you, that which, based on the purpose you want to, you know, write a book, which chapters to keep it here, or which one to leave it maybe for another book, that gives you a lot of new insight to not to just dumping everything in your mind and become like a diary, as you mentioned before. Because that's the last thing a reader needs to see. That's why this author is just, today is in a good mood and the next day is in a bad mood, unless they're talking about the different story. But yeah, it's just why, because we all are going through the same thing. So yes, if I would have written something a few months ago, probably would say, well, she's a depressed woman. But now if you write something now, just say, wow, she's all about happy place and stuff. So it's just doesn't match, but it just depends on what the purpose of that book is all about. So please get in touch with Athena. We're going to put all your details, Athena's details, in the caption on her website, and please get in touch with her. So to plan your next journey of writing a book and have a conversation with her. So do you have any freebies for our audience, Athena?
Oh, yes, I'll put something together, and we can make a link and put it at the bottom of the video.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, you are the best. And we have a common friend that she actually, when she spoke to me about you, And I think because you helped her to have her message clear about what she's doing. So one was she was talking to me, and it was the first time I met her. I said to her, look, you don't need to explain more. I want to do your program. So it's just because she was clear. And it was, of course, because of you. She was very clear about what she was selling and how she could help me with my journey. So that's the power of having a book coach, a right book coach on your side to, get your message right.
Thank you.
Thanks again. And thank you everyone for watching. Please like this episode and share it with the people that you think that they will need to watch this, or whoever you think that they just thinking that, oh, I want to write a book and I don't know what to do. So please send them this episode and spread the love. Until next episode, have a happy, healthy, wealthy life. Bye for now.